Hello, this is Chad Summers with the Husky Hell podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, the illustrious Dr. Tiffany Hamilton, the principal at Magnolia Elementary School. How are you, Dr. Hamilton?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Doing wonderful. Good to see you today. This is our second episode back. We did this for a year.
Right.
We did 9 episodes, one a month. And I'm still not completely sure the frequency that we're going to do, but I made some mistakes, I think, last time, just in some production mistakes that kind of made the podcast a cluster, and then plus also, too, you took the job at Magnolia, and that's what I want to talk to you today about, but it was a lot. At the end of last summer, and then we just had to kind of hit the pause button.
I know. Well, I think it was a great learning experience. I think, I always tell my kids, and I tell, my staff as well, it's equally as important to know what doesn't work and what you don't like as what does work and what you do like. So I think, it was a learning experience, and, just reflect back on, on what worked, what did not work, and just move forward.
Yeah. Well, we're back, and I'm thrilled that you're back with us. When I asked if you wanted to come back on the show, you said yes, and I was happy that you did. But today, we don't have a guest today. You're the guest today, and I want to talk to you because you have an interesting perspective on what it's like to be an elementary school principal. To kind of give some background, you were an assistant principal at the high school for a time. You came to work at the central office.
Yes.
What was your role?
So I was the secondary supervisor for teaching and learning. So I supported the middle school and the high school, really with a lot of different things, with curriculum and instruction, scheduling, discipline. So I supported secondary administrators and teachers.
Yeah. So that happened, and then we had an opening. Phyllis Faust, longtime principal, retires. Then you are named the new.
Yeah.
And then the year began.
And then it took off. Yes.
And then the year began last year. As you think back now on your first year at Magnolia, like I said, there's a lot of things you learned in your first year, and there's things you can't prepare for in that role. What was the biggest thing you learned in your first year at Magnolia as the principal there?
I think, when I started on June the 1st, and it's so cliche. I have colleagues who are principals, and I'm a part of principal groups on social media, and listen to podcasts, that sort of thing. And it's every single principal echoes the same thing. Your very first principalship, you're handed the keys to the building, and you stand there, and you're like, where do I begin? And then when you get into really the planning phase of everything, and you're thinking about, okay, what is the first week going to look like? What are schedules going to look like? Ordering T-shirts, ordering agendas. Dr. Martin, he went into Magnolia before I was named principal, and he really sat down with faculty and staff, and he said, hey, if there's one thing that you want to preserve and you value here at Magnolia, what is that one thing? And it was a resounding family. And so that was one of the biggest things that, when I was named, he said, we have to ensure that that's valued, that's preserved. And it really just was a beautiful mix of, my belief system is always relationship first. So it wasn't something that I had to work at. It wasn't something that I felt like I had to completely shift my pedagogy on, on what I believed and what I valued. But in every decision that I make for the building, for, students, teachers, faculty, staff, relationship and preserving family, that's always at the forefront.
When you talk about relationships, are you talking about with your teachers, with your faculty, that there's a trust that they have to trust you as the principal?
Yeah, just the overall culture and climate, just preserving that positive feel, and you really don't understand what that is until you're actually like boots on the ground and you're in the building. And really the biggest testament is when I have other people from other schools, from the State Department, substitutes, when they come in my building, that's what they leave with. You guys have number one, the cleanest, one of the cleanest schools that I've been in the Birmingham, surrounding Birmingham area. But it's just your faculty and staff is so nice, so helpful, so accommodating, whatever I need. So when you hear that from outside people, it really is a testament to, what, we authentically have a family culture amongst the faculty and staff. And, it's something that they built amongst themselves. And I just really want to be a part of that.
So the family was already there. You just joined the family.
Correct.
At Magnolia.
Correct.
And we've talked about in the past, our 3 elementary schools. Payne is Payne University.
Yes.
It's got 6,000 kids in it. I mean, it feels like. Cahaba has its own little personality. Mm-hmm. And that, I'm not throwing shade at Payne. They've been dealt a tough hand, and in my opinion, they're knocking it out of the park.
They are. They are.
Jean Grosso.
She does an amazing
and her
job.
Staff. Yeah,
yes.
It's just but you're right. You step on that campus, it has a different feel. Mm-hmm. You step on Cahaba's campus, it has its own feel.
Yeah.
Magnolia has its own feel, and it's 400 some odd kids.
Correct. We have about 425.
And how many teachers?
65 complete staff, and that's including transportation and CMP.
Okay. Yeah. And those transportation and CMP people were extremely
amazing,
important.
Yes.
Yeah.
They take what we do inside of our building, they really take it to another level. They value building relationships with our students and our families just as much as our teachers do. CMP goes over and beyond to make sure that not only is our cafeteria and our serving areas clean, but they go over and beyond. They decorate, for the kids for the holidays, and they know our students by name. So they, they're a part of that family.
Yeah, I'll never forget a bus driver. Talk about your bus drivers. That when my girls were small, would give them remember your birthdays, mm-hmm. and it might be something little,
right.
A little sticker, but they're getting on the bus and their bus driver. That's huge.
Well,
remembers and they feel seen and all those things. So those people
right.
are so important.
And people don't realize that, especially for our students who ride the bus, their first interaction, every bus stop is an extension of the school. And so that bus driver, that's that first contact that they have in the morning with our school district. And we really need that to be a positive one.
Yeah, absolutely. When the bus gets there, are you standing outside greeting the kids, or how does that work? Are you?
Yeah, so I'm outside every single morning. A lot of times I'm out opening doors. We do have a fantastic safety patrol, but our doors open at 7:20, and it's not always feasible for safety patrol to be there. So I'm outside opening doors. I'm greeting kids. Best part of my day.
Yeah. Giving out hugs.
Yes. Yep.
Well,
greeting our kiddos.
What challenge caught you completely by surprise in your first year? Or was there anything that you were completely surprised by?
I wouldn't say there's anything that I was just completely surprised by. I did go into the position with a very open mind and the mind frame of just learning and asking a lot of questions. And so, again, faculty and staff, they stepped up, they answered my questions, they were there to support. It wasn't anything that I can just point my finger to. That was really challenging. I've always been a secondary person. And I think, if I could point to one thing, I think that would be I would say maybe that was it. I was a high school chemistry teacher for, 10 years before I moved into administration. My first position as an administrator was my first couple positions as administrators was in a high school. And so just shifting to an elementary, I had 2 elementary students. So it wasn't that big of a shift, but just their schedule is different. The curriculum, of course, that's different. Just really trying to ingratiate myself and learn as much as I could and ask questions.
Who helped you in your first year?
Everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone. If I could point to, just a handful of people who were, just top-notch, saving grace. Number one was my counselor, Lauren Blake. She's been there since the school opened. She knew the school. She knows the families. She knows the students. My front office staff, Kim Wright, knows the families, knows the students by name. Dana Woodard, she's my bookkeeper. She's phenomenal. And then Joy Hobbs, my head custodian. Those ladies, they saved me. They saved me in a lot of ways. They just knew the school in and out, where things were located, knew how schedules ran, knew the students by name, knew the families. They could tell me the backstory about different families on how I could best support. They were just amazing.
Tell us about a special time because I agree, Magnolia is a special place. Tell us about a special time or a moment when you realized just how special it was.
Really, I think it had to be within my first month or two of being there, when all of the noise, like you've gotten school up and running, the teachers are doing their thing, the students have kind of settled in, and then you stand there and you're like, oh, okay. And when you have the time to kind of just sit down in your office and just really reflect on, I believe in reflecting as I go along, and I keep a notebook. And so I'm constantly, making notes on, what this worked really great, this did not, next year, tweak certain things. And, I remember sitting in my office and I became emotional because I don't know. I just became emotional because I sat back and I thought back, like, you know what? This is the team that I wanted. I wanted to be collaborative. I wanted my teachers to have autonomy and voice and choice. And all of the people who I felt like came to help, that came to my rescue, that came, that just came, and I wasn't judged. I asked the questions. I felt comfortable asking the questions. They were there. They were there.
So about 2 months in, you're sitting there and you're looking around. The noise is settled down.
Yes.
This machine is running.
Yes.
And you're looking around, CMP's doing their thing, bus drivers doing their thing. There's kids everywhere, but there's organized. There's teachers going to and fro.
Yes.
And you're going,
yes,
this is working.
Yes. And it wasn't by, honestly, I always tell my teachers, and I tell anybody, I would prefer to be the step stool to elevate other people to do what they want to do, and to live their best life. And I prefer to be behind the scenes, and give other people the opportunities to do great things. And so, just sitting there and thinking, really reflecting on, I have some great teachers.
Yeah.
I have some great staff, and they all want to be here.
Yeah.
That is so unique. Working in other school districts, like, you have teachers that are dragging in late, you have teachers who are complaining. My teachers are top notch, and they want to be at Magnolia.
Yeah.
They want to be there.
Well, and you're not going to say this, but you weren't handed the job as a favor. You earned it, and you're obviously a great, you know,
I hope.
principal. That you're helping make that machine run. Is what I was alluding to. But
Yeah.
but it's got to be humbling to be behind the scenes and all the work, all the planning, all the relationships, and then all of a sudden it's running, and you're like, okay, this is really. It's kind of like when you're skiing for the first
You're
time.
right.
You're going down the hill and you're going, okay, I'm doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's exciting.
And more so, you know, we're doing this.
Yeah.
Just a great experience.
How has Magnolia changed you as a leader?
That's such a loaded question. I'm very much so an introvert. And I just am. I'm quiet. I want to be behind the scenes. That's my preference. I just want to elevate other people, and I want to see my people succeed, and I want to see my people happy. And really, you know, in my interview with Dr. Martin, that was one of the things that, you know, that I told him, like, I want this position because I want to love on people. I want to love on teachers. And the realization after I was named principal, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get the opportunity to do my passion, do my desire, to love on people, to be able to provide other people opportunities to be their best selves and to reveal their best selves. I'm going to have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and that's the kind of leader that anybody wants to work for.
Well, I appreciate it.
I feel like Dr. Martin is like that.
He is very much so.
And he's kind of an example for other leaders, but he spawns that kind of leadership spawns other leaders like that. And when you realize that the key to leadership is servant leadership, it's not about you, it's not about me, it's about the team and us. Mm-hmm. That's when great things happen, and that's why.
I have a great team.
Yeah, you do have a great team, but you're also a great leader.
Well, thank you.
Now you've completed year 1.
Yes.
You're heading into year 2.
Uh-huh.
What is possible in year 2 in your mind that wasn't possible in year 1?
I don't think I can really answer that, you know.
Or what are you excited about in year 2?
Honestly, I'm excited about everything. I'm a people person, so I'm excited to see everybody come back through those doors. When I really reflect on what we did academically, our EL program, we knocked that out of the park. Our ACAP scores, knocked those out of the park. I was very pleased with where we were academically. What I'm most excited about is we began character work on character development, and not a program, but we had this family vibe. And so we started our work on character last year through Hope Leadership, Hope Institute, and really looking at, again, we say family. What does that look like? What does that mean? And so we had several sessions where our faculty meetings turned into character work, and really looking at personally what we hold value. What did our parents instill in us? If we died today, what would we want to be remembered for? So we did that work through a lot of this past year, and we came up with 5 core values. And so the goal this year is to continue doing that work. I always feel like, again, if we Maslow first, then we can bloom. So if we're meeting our basic needs as a faculty and staff, if I'm able to help facilitate that, if we're doing that in our classrooms, then everything else will fall in place. Everything else will work, will happen, will succeed. So this year, we're, even kicking off our professional development days on, August the 3rd. We're looking at the past character work that we did, doing some goal setting, taking those 5 values and really pushing those out to stakeholders, so that we can really come up with a common set of goals, values. And then the next step is, okay, what does that look like in every facet of how we do business? What does that look like in the hallways? What does that look like in the cafeterias? What does that look like on the bus? What does that look like in our community? So
Yeah.
that's what I'm really excited about.
What's something that happens in an elementary school that people may not know happens in an elementary school that still makes you smile when you see it? Like when you like, for instance, my wife teaches kindergarten.
Right.
And like, I didn't know this, but they sometimes have to bring a complete different change of clothes because kindergartners have,
Yeah.
you know, as you said, you went from a secondary to a primary to an elementary setting. Were there things that you were like, oh yeah,
Yes.
kids have accidents, kids, you know?
Well, I had two elementary school students last year, so
And they go to Magnolia with you.
well, I'll have a rising fourth grader who will still be there with me at Magnolia, and then I'll have a middle schooler. So he moved on. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
I guess probably the two biggest things, coming from a secondary world is that, their schedule. Coming from secondary, you have 45 minutes on the dot, bells are ringing, we're moving, it doesn't. Whereas in the elementary world, we really just have 2 bells. We have a bell to start our day, a bell to end our day.
Yeah.
And our teachers really do have the flexibility as long as they're meeting, state requirements as far as the number of minutes they need to put in for ARI, and OMI, reading, math. They really have the autonomy to create their schedules. And so that was a big shift. Just not having that bell to bell, such a stringent schedule, and having the flexibility in the schedule. And for the most part, I mean, the kids every single day have such this burning excitement, authentic, just this love to be there and learning, and it's just, you really, it humbles you. And you really realize, you know what, that we're the foundation. We're setting the foundation of all learning for the rest of these students' lives. But more so for me, how do we continue to cultivate that excitement, that passion, that vigor, those wide eyes, how do you continue to cultivate that when your kiddos, when they leave and they're going into middle school, they're going into high school? How do you continue to cultivate that?
Yeah. And it's got to be humbling as a principal brother. You're kind of part of that, not just part of that, but you're driving the train.
Yeah.
And everybody's behind you. Funniest thing that happened this past year.
Funniest thing. I can't put my finger on just one thing that happened. I think, just being in an elementary school, it's, the kids are always going to say something and you're like, wait, what? What did you just say? And so, I mean, it was just,
yeah.
It's just a great time.
There's a picture I love of you that somebody snapped. It was on social media, I think. Mm-hmm. But it's a picture of you and you're just holding hands with this little boy walking from the playground, and he's just apparently just talking, filling your ear, and you're leaning down and listening, and and he's holding the hand of a PhD, and you know more about chemistry than he'll ever know, but you've forgotten more than he ever, but you're just that good time, and that listening ear.
It's moments like that give you goosebumps. It's moments like that you're like, you know what? That's why I'm here. That's why God placed me here. That's why I'm here. It really is. It's moments like that. And he was upset because, he was like, it's not fair. And I was like, what's not fair? And he was like, that I didn't get recess. And I was like, but you did get recess. And he was like, but I didn't get recess because the people who I wanted to play with, they wouldn't play with me. And so just like their perspective, just their perspective on things. And I was like, but you did get recess. And so, just walking him back into the building, and, it's just, one of the things I think that was most impactful, just stepping back and looking over the whole course of the school year, is that, we have, you think that only high school students, come to school with stuff. And you don't realize that our 5-year-olds, our 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds are so smart, and they're so savvy. And, it's just, we just have to make sure that we're meeting their needs and not just taking to the cafeteria for breakfast, for lunch, that sort of thing. But, they come to school with stuff too. And it's more heavy for them, because they really don't know how to cope. And it's just, our teachers do just such a phenomenal job. Not just classroom management, but just, just having those skills and those tools to be able to, help support our students in that way.
The morning meetings that we do on the carpets.
Yes.
And that's where that comes out. Is they have those times. And I know my wife Monique talks about, I mean, she's a type A, let's get it done.
Right.
But she has to stop, turn the crank. Okay, let's be human here.
Right.
And that's when the stuff comes out. My dog died.
Right.
And there's some things they won't tell you.
Right.
Mom and dad, there's stuff going on at home.
Right.
And they've got to work through that so they can learn.
Right. And that was one of the first books that I gave my staff, was You Can't Teach Through a Rat by Marvin Berkowitz. And
Can't teach through what?
Rat, R-A-T. And so the whole premise is, and really the backstory of the entire book starts in chapter 2, where, this little boy is raising his hand. He's trying to tell his teacher, and she won't stop. And finally, it gets to the point, 15, 20 minutes into class, as she stops, and she's like, what? Tell me what's going on. And he basically tells his story about that he saw this rat in his kitchen, and he just wanted to tell his story. And it just really helps our teachers to be, to have some perspective. Again, you have to Maslow before you can bloom, and that's the importance of those morning meetings. Let them get out what they need to say so that they're in the right mind frame to be able to receive what it is that you want to teach them and what you want them to learn.
Right. And that's something it's real in their little world.
Yes,
they're not
so real.
They're not going to learn division and multiplication until they tell you about their rat.
Right. You're right.
I couldn't think about anything else. I saw a rat in my kitchen. All right, as we wrap up today.
Yes.
And thank you. This has been such a great conversation.
Yep.
Lightning round.
Okay.
Lightning round. No questions, rapid fire questions.
Okay, I'm ready.
Let's see what you got.
Okay.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee. What are you? Any preference? Kind of coffee you like?
Not really. Just coffee and hazelnut creamer.
Okay. You do like stuff in it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
You told me black coffee. I said I have to walk away.
No.
I like my coffee to taste almost like cocoa. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning.
Morning. So every morning you're out.
Every morning. I'm up at 4.
4?
Yep.
Okay.
I get up at 4. I have to have that time in the morning, just that quiet time, to kind of, just think about my day and, kind of get situated. And, morning.
4 o'clock. What time do you go to bed?
8:30, 9 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. The older I get, I'm loving those 8:30, 9 o'clock bedtime.
My boys are in the bed. My house is quiet, black by 8:30.
That's awesome.
It is amazing.
Favorite part of the school day?
Probably lunch.
Okay.
Probably lunch. Just being able to get in there and, the students have an opportunity to chat and, walking around and
the CMP workers, what they do, it's a small miracle.
It is.
Day.
It's great.
Many kids and keep it rolling. Favorite school tradition?
Favorite school tradition? That's one thing I learned this past year, that, we have a lot of, we have a lot of traditions. We have a lot of, little innuendos that are just specific to Magnolia. Favorite one? I don't know if I can just pick just one.
Okay. We can table that.
Yeah, sorry.
What's one classroom you always look forward to visiting?
All of them. I try to get in. I try to learn classroom schedules, grade level as quickly as possible, so that I know, when I can be in there. Kindergarten. I try to go in kindergarten more often, only because, just going in there. Squirrel, is Dr. Hamilton in here?
Yeah.
So I try to get them a lot more acclimated to me being in those classrooms, so that I don't interrupt instruction as much. But I mean, all the classrooms are really great, and I enjoy being able to be in all of them.
Favorite children's book?
There was a book, and I can't remember who it was. I can't remember who it's by, but it was the Postman book. And it's a book about, different letters that have traveled around the world, and they actually have actual letters inside of the book. So anything 3D, anything pop-up.
Yeah.
But it's the Mr. Postman book.
I used to love pop-up books.
Yeah.
they were so great. Best part of being a principal?
Being able to help people. And I know that's so cliche, but really having the authority and the autonomy to be able to listen to ideas from students, ideas from teachers, and trying to make those happen. I tell my staff, when I can say yes, I try to, and if I have to say no, this is the reason why. I try to be as transparent as I can with my staff. But yeah, just being there, I want to see them do great. I want to see them excel. I want to see our kiddos excel.
So your K-5 class is the class, I think, of 2039. Mm-hmm. What do you want them to remember about Dr. Hamilton when they think about on their graduation day what it was like to be at Magnolia?
She was there for me. I want students to look back and say, you know what, she gave me what I needed in that moment. If it was a stern word, she gave it to me. If it was a hug, she gave it to me. If it was a pat on the back, she gave it to me. She provided me with what I needed when I needed.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Very good. Congratulations on your first year.
Thank you.
Best of luck for your second year.
We're excited.
We're lucky to have you, and
lucky to be here.
The teachers and the families at Magnolia feel the same way. Dr. Tiffany Hamilton, thank you for being our guest today. It's kind of weird you being the guest since you're the co-host, but I just wanted to take a second just to reflect on your first year and
thank you.
Say, yeah,
it's been wonderful.
It's going to be great. So,
all right. Thank you.
Yeah, this has been the Husky Health Podcast, episode number 2 on the reboot. And we will see you next episode when we welcome Dr. Mark Knaus, the band director from Hewitt-Trussville High School, as we talk about what it takes to put together a brand new football season, halftime show, and all the things.
All the things.
So until then, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.